Welcome to Mike and Friends. My name is Michael McClure. I'm a Peace Corps volunteer from the United States of America in the great state of California. Today, the topic of our program will be the American legal system. Right now, we are going to take the time and review some vocabulary from our previous conversation. So the first word is judge. The judge is the man or woman who is in charge of the court. He makes sure the court runs smoothly, and in the end, if the jury decides on a guilty verdict, he gives the sentence to the defendant. The jury is composed of 12 ordinary citizens. These are 12 citizens of the United States, and their job is in court to listen to the arguments of the lawyers and determine if the guilty party is guilty or not guilty. Typically, the jury sits on the right-hand side of the court, and there's one man named the foreman who is in charge of the jury. After listening to several arguments, the jury will retire to a separate room, and there they will meet and discuss the verdict. Normally, all 12 people have to agree on the verdict, either guilty or not guilty. The next are the lawyers. Typically, there are two lawyers in the courtroom. One lawyer is called a prosecutor, and one is called the defender, or you can have a public defender. The prosecutor represents the plaintiff, and the defender represents the defendant. So, in a case, for example, if I was working at a company and I broke my arm and I decided to sue the company for damages, I would be the plaintiff. I would be suing the company. The company would be the defendant. I would have a lawyer who would help me sue the company. My lawyer would be the prosecutor. The defendant's lawyer would be his defender. Also, in cases of criminal courts, the defendant is usually the criminal trying to prove his innocence, and he's always appointed with the public defender. Here's another set of vocabulary words. The first is verdict. The verdict is what the jury decides, the jury of 12 citizens. And the verdict is either guilty or innocent. So guilty means they did it. Innocent means everything's okay. They are okay. If the verdict is guilty, then the judge gives the sentence. And the sentence is the punishment. The sentence could be 10 years in prison. The sentence could be community service. The sentence could be life in prison. And in some places, the sentence can be capital punishment, which is death. If the defendant is found to be innocent, it is called an acquittal. And you could say that the defendant was acquitted. It means he is innocent. If he is found to be guilty, then it is a conviction, or you can say he was convicted. He was convicted. So convicted is guilty, acquitted, innocent. Perjury is when you lie under oath. It's when you say things that are untrue in court. So when a witness goes to court, he puts his hand on the Bible and his other hand up, and he swears to tell the truth. If he does not tell the truth, and later people discover, they realize that he did not tell the truth, it is called perjury, and it is a very serious crime. And then you will have to go to trial for committing perjury. Finally, appeal. Appeal is the process where if a lower court reaches a decision and the lawyers are not happy with it, they think it was the wrong decision, they can appeal the decision to a higher court, which they can then appeal and appeal and appeal. It's called the process of appeals. And this is how court cases reach the state Supreme Courts or the United States Supreme Courts through appeals. So sometimes there will be a case where a man will be convicted of a crime. The jury will say he's guilty. However, the lawyers will still not agree, and they'll appeal the case. And maybe a higher judge who'll look at the facts and I'll say, I don't agree with the lower court. I think they reached the wrong decision. I will see the case. We will have the case over at a higher level. This is called an appeal, and this process can continue and continue and continue. So many of the court cases that reach the highest court in the United States Supreme Court, have been appealed many, many, many times to reach this moment. It could be 10 years or even more for a case to reach the Supreme Court. These words are all very useful too, because there's quite a few American TV shows, American films, American books about courts, about courtroom dramas, and you will hear these words very often. Almost all of them are used exclusively in the context of an American court. And so the United States is a sovereign country. But we also say each state, if something happens inside the state, then each state, they deal with that problem on their own. That's that state's problem. It's not, the federal government cannot interfere. However, if that problem is between two states, then it becomes a part of a national thing. And so there's many complicated legal situations, but the government will try to interfere in state issues. And one example I can think of is in the United States, it's illegal for people to drink alcohol if you're under the age of 21. You have to be under the age of 21, or if you're under the age of 21, you are not allowed to drink alcohol. However, this is not a federal law. This is a state law. In every single state, all 50 states have the same law. Some states, though, if they wanted to, they could change it. They could say 18, they could say 19. It's the state's decision. But the reason that every state has the same law, the 21-year-old law, is because if they decide to change the age to lower, the government can't say, no, you can't do that. But what they can do is they can not give the state money for problems. And so what happens is then in the end is all the states have the same laws. And so there's kind of as I said, there's this balance. There's this constant tug back and forth between money and laws. That is how our democracy works. Yeah. So that's one example. They use money to dictate what they think should be a national law.
So when I've heard that in the state of Arkansas, it's not allowed for everyone to drink alcohol at all. Is it true?
Yeah, well, it depends. Some states, they have laws where on Sunday you are not allowed to buy alcohol. Stores cannot sell alcohol on Sundays. Some states, they say you can only buy alcohol at certain stores. They have to be a special store. But then some states say you can buy alcohol everywhere. They say you can buy alcohol wherever you want. But the laws change depending on the state. I think that's all the time we have once again. But I want to thank everyone for joining me here for another episode of Mike and Friends. And hopefully we can do it again sometime.